What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, what just happened to the overall market, why more shorts are piling into stocks like NIO, how this may affect the share price moving forward. Before I break anything down about NIO, though, before I talk about what the shorts are doing and what pieces of news just came out, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed up to 10 free stocks, each worth up to $2,000. And the best part is any could be a free NIO share. The offer ends very soon. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So NIO is down 5.86% for the day, holding up okay. I mean, it's just barely below $8. It wasn't down like 10% or anything that crazy, but overall, we did get the red day, and I was expecting this for NIO. I told you guys we'd probably saw the final pump already, or we might just get one final pump before this thing comes down. And so far, that's what it's doing, as it does have these gaps below it could start to fill. But the question is, why did this happen? Why is Tesla down 2%? Why is SPY down 0.12%? It was down a lot more earlier, but it did try to rebound just a little bit. But overall, it's a red day. Why is the QQQ also in the red, down 0.36%? Well, the data came out in the morning. Fed Bowman was speaking, and she said some very hawkish things. She talked about how inflation is too hot and the Fed has to remain restrictive. Then we had the Michigan consumer sentiment and inflationary expectations reports that came out, and they were more bearish for the markets, unfortunately. Consumer sentiment is dropping quite hard to the 6-month low because of what's happening with the debt. Excuse me, sorry guys. Because of what's happening with the debt ceiling. I also forgot to mention, let me just apologize in case I cough a bit, because I have contracted either a flu or a cold. That's because I went to a hairdresser and they were coughing quite a bit. I was fine yesterday, just coughing a little bit here and there. It wasn't that bad, but it's gotten a little bit worse today, so I apologize. But I'm completely fine. I mean, as of right now, it's very minor. Uh, just a small cough, and that's about it. But anyways, talking about the markets in NIO, the US consumer sentiment came down pretty hard, and this led to more fears about how things are going to go forward because many people are worrying that the Fed's borrowing cap could trigger a recession. And then on top of that, there was more news that came out from the consumer inflationary report from the University of Michigan. And what it found was we're expecting, or at least the expectations have gone up again. We're expecting a zero point 0.2 increase in inflation. The expectations are at a high of 3.2% versus the expectation of a decline to about 2.9%. So expectations are going up for inflation. The yields are now higher because of it. And on the bearish side, we're continuing to see many different assets come down. Now, this is not good for the markets, at least for the shorter term, because there are fears that by the time we get to the summer as well, we could see another increase in inflation, right? The outlook is not the best, so we have to be careful. SPY is closed a little bit above max pain at 411, but it was down to about the 409s for a lot of the day. It still closed red. As far as NIO goes, there was bullish news that came out yesterday about how they're launching this new semi-solid state battery that has a 600-mile range. Once again, great news. I haven't seen this in action yet, so I'd have to look into this if this is legitimate or in terms of like the range. But I believe it's most likely accurate, and I'm very confident that this will help NIO moving forward, especially for a lot of their customers. And on top of that, there was news that came out that the ET5 has been spotted outside, and NIO is helping to advertise it even more. It's a very, very beautiful car, has beautiful tail lights, a glass roof. And for me, it's another very bullish catalyst for NIO going for the long term. For the short term, not as much. Uh, NIO is down like almost 6%. The volume was only 38 million. And on top of that, the short volume is pretty flat, only at about 44%. Additionally, NIO had a small bounce in the price pairs ratio that might start to come down as NIO is underperforming. And NIO tends to be green just barely on Mondays. So now let me break this down for you guys just briefly. What's happening to the markets? I'm going to keep this part short. NIO is down almost 6%. I was warning you guys that there's likely downside coming in the markets. And I was saying that because of the debt ceiling, the fears that are now coming for consumers. Sentiment is now becoming more bearish. People are becoming more fearful about it. And this is like a cycle that repeats every so often. I mean, the same thing happened in 2013, 2011. The market did come down during both of those times. I believe between like 4 and 7%. And so far, the market's just barely starting to turn. So there's likely downside coming. That's one factor. There's also the banking situation, fears involving inflation because expectations are high, and other factors like that. On the daily chart, the S&P 500 or SPY. I'm just going to talk about SPY for now because I really like this setup. It's looking bearish, right? It looks very bearish. Why? Well, we have this possible head and shoulders development. The market tried to rebound at the end of the day, but we are kind of red. Could we get one more push to fill this gap? It's a possibility, but I'm not counting on much more upside from here. It may even fail to do so. It looks to me like there's a head and shoulders forming. We have a left shoulder, a head, and a right shoulder. The only way for me to turn more bullish would be if we could break 417.62, because if we do, we're going to fly to 420 plus. But I personally doubt that's going to happen. If you look at the daily where we have this decline, the 30-minute is still looking relatively weak. It's about to get a crossover, so there's a chance we're going to see this thing we might see the market try to like bounce just a bit, but I'm not counting on it being too big. Like I said before, I think the market's in the topping process, and we're about to end any like very bullish pieces of price action very soon. We could try to rebound just a little bit before we start to see more downside, and I think it's very likely that's going to be the case. We have these massive gaps that are unfilled, and the bearish divergences are still present on many different stocks. There's a gap down here to 405. There are even more down below. Could try to bounce just a little bit more, just a small bounce before this thing comes down. It's still very possible because I did see signs of a divergence on. Actually, I'm not seeing it on SPY, but I think I saw it somewhere else. Anyways, for the QQQ, I mean, any bounce is just going to be minor. A few dollars to the upside, then this thing will just come down and start tanking. The bigger move is going to be the downside, not the upside. I'm warning you guys, we're already starting to see signs of that. The QQQ is going to fill this 316 gap and then eventually the 312 gap and even lower than that. There's more downside coming. It could pump a little bit more, just a tiny bit more before the downside starts. But in my opinion, the QQQ may turn weaker because there's a bearish divergence still present. So maybe it pumps a little bit more, then comes down. Either way, it's looking bearish to me. Tesla's going to be dragged down by the market. And actually, on the 1 hour time frame, let me just bring up my extended hours. It's just barely holding, I believe, the 200. Yeah, just barely around the 200. Actually broke below the 200. It got a pump as I predicted because of the Elon Musk news about him finding a new Twitter CEO. But as the market came down, Tesla came down too. Looking at the charts, I'm not really seeing a bearish or any kind of divergence. On the bigger time frames, let me just double check. I'm not seeing it either for Tesla. Tesla could try to rebound. It's going to try to rebound again, maybe try to get back to 170, but overall, I see it just eventually coming down. I think it's due for downside. I think the market is going to come down soon. The bounce is going to be small. The bigger move is going to be the downside. Just give it a few weeks. I'm very confident that is going to be the case. More downside is coming. We're going to see the 160s, unfortunately. That is what I'm seeing. Anyways, for NIO, just to end the video, NIO could try to bounce, of course. It's very possible NIO will try to bounce if the market does bounce with it. The market could help NIO try to get back up to about $8 and just trade sideways here. But then after that, there's not much else going on. It's likely going to continue to downtrend and start filling its gaps. So small bounce to the upside, then just continues dropping is what I'm seeing. I will go into more details about other factors for my Sunday video, but for now, I just want to warn you about that. And I just want to note that if it does get a small bounce, there's this gap around like 8.3. It's going to likely, it could try to fill it or get stopped at like gap resistance, small bounce, and then just starts falling. And it's going to come down to 7.6 and maybe 7.3 over the next few weeks. It's looking more bearish to me, right? The bigger move is going to be the bearish move. That's what I have for this one. Thank you for listening. Don't forget about the Moomoo link, and don't forget I have some merch for you guys around the comment section. Thank you all for listening. Have a great day. NIO to the moon as the long term is very bright, and peace out.